Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Adventures Travel Club television show. Betty, we're in this beautiful city of Bruges in Belgium.
Yeah,
And,
excuse me, that's a funny name, isn't it?
Bruges? Well, yeah, it was founded in the 9th century by the Vikings who settled here at the end of the little river called De Rie. I think
How
that's it.
do you say that?
I'm not
I
sure.
will say it again. Come on.
No, I'm not about to say it again.
But
anyway,
okay.
what you were going to say, it had a kind of a funny name, but the name is derived, they believe, from the old Scandinavian word brygga, which means harbor or mooring place. Now, because, it was so close to the North Sea, the settlement quickly became an important international harbor. And then what they did, they had a sea arm, like a big canal, called the Zwin, and that connected Bruges and the North Sea. And this little city that we see right here, it got its city rights as early as the 12th century. And then, about that time is when they built a big protective wall around the city. But what happened was, the Zwin started to silt up, and this would have caused a whole bunch of big problems for the city. But the city of Bruges kind of adapted to it by creating two outports, is what they call it. One called Dam, and the other one Sluice.
Watch your language,
I'm sorry, that's what
this is a
those are the
family
places.
program.
But Betty, in the 13th century, Bruges was an important international trading center, and traders came from all over the world to sell their products and to buy that beautiful Flemish cloth. And, they had people that would come from Spain, that would come from France. Oh, and that's the interesting thing, too, because they were having some problems in Flanders. That was what the country was called at that particular time. And the French thought that they would take it over, because they were having little internal problems. But the Flemish army kicked out the French in the Battle of the Golden Spurs on July the 11th. How about that?
Yeah, I understand.
Not too far from the 4th of July.
It keeps going on and on. But what is this right here?
Just part of the monuments that you see
know what?
in Bruges.
It looked like a portable bridge. Was it a portable bridge, you think?
No, I think it was just a piece of statuary, actually. That was there, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, it is a beautiful, beautiful little city. And as I said, the Italians, the Germans, and the Scottish, I should say, and the Spanish, made this into a really true European center, and different languages could be heard all over the place, and all sorts of exotic products could be found here in Bruges.
Exotic. Oh,
exotic, yeah.
Hey, I know why you were really anxious to go to Bruges.
Why?
Because it was founded by the Vikings. And
Sure.
you go back, that's your relations, huh?
You betcha.
Are you going to take some credit for this?
No, I don't think so, because I don't know if they came from Norway, Sweden, or Denmark.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever it was in those days.
But it was good, so you might as well have your
Yeah, well,
ancestors.
the other thing, too, a lot of people thought that the Vikings just pillaged all over the place, but remember the city of Dublin in Ireland?
How well
Who
I
was
do,
that founded
yes.
by?
Oh, yeah, but you just claim that because of your heritage.
Well, why not? But it's history. I mean, it's absolutely history.
Yeah. What did they do? Find some little
they found,
vestiges
of
the culture or
yeah.
the...
They found that the Vikings were in there very, very early, and helped set up the city as well.
They traveled a lot, didn't they? The Vikings.
Oh,
Didn't
all over
they?
the world.
Isn't that Thor? Who's the guy that had the raft? That emulated what the Vikings had done. Thor.
Oh, you're thinking about the Kon-Tiki and that?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to show those programs again so that we know. Hey, we're talking about showing things. We're just taking a look at the town square and what they call the Berg Square right here. Now, Betty, there's something that's very interesting, and I didn't realize it until actually after I left Bruges. Isn't that interesting there, right there in the town square?
Marv, they have that on board ships today. It's a wonderful entertainment for the kids.
And it's great. The kids just love that.
Yeah.
They have a chapel here called the Chapel of the Holy Blood. And this was interesting. I didn't learn about this until after we'd left Bruges, but it's in a church, which is called the Holy Blood, and there's a relic there. And according to tradition, it dates back to the 11th or 12th century. And it's never been opened. It's a bottle that was probably made like as a perfume bottle in Constantinople. And the Bible never mentioned the fact that Christ's blood was preserved, but One of the Gospels mentioned that Joseph of Arimathea preserved the blood after he washed the dead body of Jesus. And tradition has it that one of the counts brought the relic containing the blood of Christ from Jerusalem to Bruges after the Second Crusade. And they do have that on display now and then. And then they also have, of course, when they do that, the adoration of the relic, they have the procession of the Holy Blood, which is every year on Ascension Day during the month of May, and that goes through the streets of Bruges.
Yeah.
So it's just, and at that time, Betty, the people of Bruges, they dress in the old historical costumes, and they reenact the original procession and they also do biblical scenes as well.
Well,
So
that
that's
sounds neat.
interesting,
That would
huh?
be a really good time to go.
Yeah.
I know in Italy, Marv, there is there is blood at Lianco, Leon, where a priest was losing his faith about the actual body and blood of Christ at the consecration, and so what happened during the consecration, actually on the host that he was holding, blood seeped from the host itself.
I've heard of
But now
that.
they do have that on display.
Yeah.
I've often wondered why we never went there and all the trips we've done to
we should.
Italy. Next time.
Right, but now we've already gone to Paris, and as you can see, we're in the Cathedral of Notre Dame, and this is just this absolutely wonderful, wonderful cathedral that you see here. You know, on the spot where the cathedral now stands, the Romans had built a temple to Jupiter, and then after that, when the Christians came along, it was made into a basilica, and then a Romanesque church, and that was founded in the year 528. Isn't that something?
Well, I looked up some of the history of this church. I had gone with my daughter last year and spent a lot of time here. And the history of this church is so interesting. How many people have taken over, how it was gone in disrepair, and then it was vandalized, and the statues were destroyed.
Oh, yeah, and well, of course, that happened. A lot of that happened during the French Revolution. You know, I mean, they used the church for a warehouse, and they just, well, during the French Revolution, of course, they slaughtered an awful lot of religious and a lot of priests. And there was, and a lot of the windows were broken, and a lot of the statuary too. In fact, Betty, you're right, because when they were restoring the cathedral, they found a lot of the statues that were not anywhere close to the cathedral, but they brought them back, and some of them were destroyed, but some of them were still in good condition.
Found.
Yeah.
Now, it was here at Notre Dame that Napoleon crowned himself.
Right.
And you know what? The Pope was there because the Pope was the head,
Usually
of course.
does that,
yeah.
right.
But Napoleon crowned himself. He was more powerful than the Pope. So
Not only that, he also crowned Josephine
Yeah.
as his empress as well.
I thought that part of it was
That
really
was,
funny.
I
The
believe that was-
egotistical little man.
I believe that was Pope Pius VII, and the Pope didn't raise any objections. I guess Napoleon was a pretty powerful guy. Anyway, we're looking right now on the outside of the cathedral, as you can see here, and we see the statuary here. And here you can see the devil on one side and see angels on the other side. Now, the thing is, you have to realize that when this cathedral was built, and these statues and reliefs, as we see that were here, this had to tell the story of Christianity, and also, of course, of the Old Testament as well as the New Testament as well. And what better way to do it than to have the carvings right out there in the front of the church so that everybody could take a look at it?
Well, see, they were not educated people. They couldn't read, so
Exactly.
they didn't know about the history of the church. So by standing outside, the 12 apostles told the story, that it was just a marvelous lesson, like we would do to children today with picture books to describe things. And when I first saw them, I thought, my gosh, why did they waste all of that wonderful talent outside? Until I read. You know, it helps to read.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
But it's very interesting, and there's so many stories there that are told.
Well, there are, and the thing is that what amazes me is that now they have cleaned this up. I remember visiting this years and years and years ago, and the cathedral seemed to be very, very dark, and of course, on the outside too, the building was, almost kind of black. But what they've done is they've cleaned that up, and as they've done with so many buildings in Europe now, and so they are just absolutely beautiful. I think we've talked about that, Betty, when we visited the Vatican and Vatican City several times. We see now the outside of St. Peter's also. It just looks like it's in pristine condition because of the cleaning that they've done, and you realize all the soot and the pollution from hundreds and hundreds of years that have been cleaned away, and so it is really magnificent.
Just in your own home. Now, I was watching the facade there of all of the figures, and I thought to myself, now, Betty, who would you be able to recognize? How would you be able to name any of them? And and I'm product of Catholic schools, et cetera, and I wouldn't know, but I would. Well, I'd know Jesus and Mary, but to identify them all. But you can see that if you made that a study, then eventually that would be your Bible study.
Sure. Very, very much so.
Yeah.
Now, this is a square out in front of the cathedral. And years ago, there were lots and lots of little houses and little buildings that were here. And they've always wanted the cathedral to be known as the center of Paris. And so what they did is they knocked all those buildings down. And you can still see that there's some work that's being done here on the side, on the east side of the cathedral here. And it's interesting to note, too, that most measurements from Paris begin here at the cathedral. So it's sort of really the heart. The Parisians have wanted it to always be the heart of Paris, and I guess we can say that it really is, because you measure everything from the cathedral here. Now, we should also mention, too, that the River Seine is right next to the cathedral. In fact, this is on a little island, if you were really to look at it. And if you look over here, Betty, that's the left bank, right?
The left bank, right there. That isn't the left bank that I like going to. That is the left bank. But I like to go by Sacré-Cœur, the left bank up there, where you see all of the artisans gathered around in Paris.
Well, that wouldn't be the. There's no river up there,
but
so
they
that wouldn't
call
be a
it
left
no.
bank.
But they call it. I don't know. It's called the left bank.
The only left bank I know is down here. Anyway, the gargoyles. We can't miss the gargoyles. We see so many of them that are here, and of course we know that in so many of the old buildings that we see, especially these beautiful Gothic buildings that we see here, that the gargoyles were more or less rain spouts, and so the water would come down and bingo, out the mouth of the gargoyle. Now, some of them were in very, very grotesque shapes, and others were half human and half animals. Anyway, we see a statue of Our Lady up here, and of course, that's what the cathedral is known for, Notre Dame or Our Lady. And the flying buttresses that you can see here that hold up the walls is a part of the beautiful architecture. Now, this is sort of the back end of the church, and as we saw on the front of the church, there's the gargoyles there that we can see. The front of the church, there was a big square, and the back of the church is a park, and it's beautiful. There's fountains there in the park, and it's a nice place to go and to just sort of rest and relax, especially if you have already taken a tour or taken your own tour through the cathedral. The day that I shot this, we'd been at Mass at the cathedral. This happened to be a Sunday, and so the church was really packed with all sorts of people. And even though they try and keep the tourists who aren't going to go to Mass, in one area, they're still just all over the place. So it makes for a little bit of concentration if you want to concentrate on the service with all of the people coming and going. But I will say, nice thing about this, almost everywhere we went in France, is that they did allow you to take pictures, and I thought that was really wonderful, because there are a lot of places now where you go in Europe and you cannot take your camera. And you mentioned the church up on the hill.
Yeah.
You can't do that up there.
Yeah,
you
matter
can't take
of
economics.
they want to. Part of it is preservation of the artwork, but mostly I think they want to sell the postcards and make a little money from it. Marv, now when you talked a little bit ago about the gargoyles, and you saw the extension of them, they don't all extend that far, but some of them were, all of them were actually made for rain, but they were also so grotesque that was to keep away the evil spirits. You look at those and you think
Some of them look like evil
yeah,
spirits.
they did. Well, that was one of the features of them. They made them so ugly like that to deter people from doing evil things, and of course. The Hunchback of Notre Dame, the wonderful novel by Victor Hugo, sort of brought all the attention again back to the Notre Dame Cathedral. When you were there, did you think about the Hunchback?
Oh, sure. Yeah. In fact, because I kept thinking, and of course, from what I understand, that's fictional. But the opportunity to go up on top of the towers in that other area, you can do that. I didn't happen to do that on this particular trip, but yeah, you think about that, of course. It's just and other stories that have been written about the cathedral as well, because it's such a great place, and as we say, it's the center of Paris, and the thing is that it's a great place for authors to put some of their plots.
I'm back again. I'm just fascinated by those flying buttresses and stuff, and to think how long they've existed, Marv. They were built in the year 1100.
Yeah,
so,
and there we're looking now, Betty. See there, so you can see that you'd be Quasimodo up there yelling, "Sanctuary, sanctuary!"
And there's 226 feet to get up there. So you want to climb it up? Climb up those.
I wasn't going to climb up.
That's to the North Tower. So
no elevator?
No elevator, and you get to one point, and then you go on 140 steps more to the South Tower. You can really get your day's exercise in by just going to Notre Dame Cathedral. You do both things. You see, you get your spiritual exercise and you get your physical exercise. Yeah.
All right. Well, on the left bank over here, there are book stalls, and there are also a lot of old stores. One is a Shakespearean store over here. What do you call it? Antiquarian? Is that the correct word, Betty?
If you say so.
Okay. Anyway,
it sounds right. It does.
It sounds right.
Yeah.
Okay. They've got sort of blackboards or green boards out here, and they write all sorts of things. And I was glad that they did this in English too. Of course, Shakespeare was English, so maybe that's why they did it. But Shakespeare and Company, and we can see. I went inside here, and they have just new books, and of course a lot of old books too. But this store. Or I should say this is, I wouldn't say it's a franchise, but they're all over the world. They're in the United States. They're all over Europe.
Well, probably is a franchise. I thought of the idea, if you want to use my name or you want to use the name.
You want to use my name? I'm Shakespeare. Yeah, go ahead and
pay
me.
No. But that had a title. It didn't say Shakespeare. The
Shakespeare
store.
and Company.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I mean, you couldn't just, if somebody else already has that registered, you can't
I don't
use
know
Shakespeare
about
and
that,
Company.
Wouldn't he be public domain?
Not if they'd have to change the Shakespeare and Company, or I think.
A Shakespeare and Company.
Ah.
Whatever. Anyway, I thought it was just very interesting, and it was interesting to see what they had up here on the boards. And there were wonderful people that helped you in the store, and of course they all spoke several different languages, which was good. I don't think that I bought a book here though. I know I did look around though, but this is a great way, after you visit the cathedral, walk across the river and you
eat.
See, they've got one and eat.
Eat.
Well,
that's what I did.
That's right. That was also on the itinerary, because you're, like you say, if you climb all those stairs, you're going to be awfully hungry. And this is just down across the street from where we were, still there on the left bank. And this is just one of the many monuments, of course, that you see in Paris, and also so many fountains. I think that's why this city is so beautiful.
Paris is monumental. Do you get it?
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. And here we see a griffin with
what is it?
With some water. A griffin.
Griffin.
Or En.
En.
Uh-huh.
And meaning?
Meaning that's the mythical creature that you just saw.
And
that was the name of it.
Named how? What?
Griffin.
I know you said that, but where did it get its name?
I have no idea.
Okay, that's what the point I was trying to make.
Absolutely no idea.
I just expect you to know these things, Marv.
Well,
when you talk about them, I expect to have a background of it
that?
too. Yes.
Well, not of everything.
I'm disappointed.
I'm sorry. Anyway, if you want to take a little tour on the Seine, you can do that, because there are a number of tour boats that are going not only during the daytime but also at night. And if you like to, you can also have your dinner on one of these boats.
It's romantic. It really is.
So
very,
beautiful
very
at
nice.
night, Now, there are a lot of barges that people live on, and we see them that are tied up here on the Seine. Now, Betty, your son and daughter-in-law have a barge over in France, right?
Yes, they do. They have it. Eventually, they will end up in Paris, but now they're just doing the canals. They're down by Dole, and then they're going to meander. They only leave. They have it for like 5 months out of the year, and then they park it and come home.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty nice, huh?
Very nice.
I spent a couple of weeks on it, and my goodness, it's a lovely way to travel. But I think 2-3 weeks would be enough for me.
Well, you're too active. You don't want to sit there and relax.
But I can do that. But and anyway, they have bicycles, and then you can get out and walk, and you come to little peasant homes and stuff, and they sell you their vegetables and. Oh, yeah.
That's great, isn't it?
It is so nice.
That's great. Well, that's the wonderful thing, too, about France. And not only France, but you can do it in Germany. You can also do it in England and also in Holland. You can take barge trips, and they are marvelous, whether you rent one yourself or whether you go on one that's sort of an excursion. But now we have wandered down to the Louvre. And as we see here, there is the pyramid right here, which was constructed just a few years ago. In fact, this was done by an American architect, Eo Ming Pi, and he was the one who designed the pyramid. And we'll take a look at the inside of it after a little bit. But anyway, the Louvre, of course, has a fantastic history because at one point in time, there was a medieval fortress that was built here. And then there was a palace that was built by King Philippe Auguste at the end of the 13th century. And if you were to go in the basement or in the car park, you can see, the moat of the medieval fortress. But I didn't get down there because the Louvre itself is quite big, isn't it, Betty?
Yeah.
I mean, if you were to go through it, it would take you. Well, you can't do it in a day. There's no way.
I don't think so. 37 miles.
Is that what it is? 37 miles of hallways?
Miles,
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I don't think that's all of it. I've been there myself. Well, you have been there several times, but I've been there when this thing wasn't built.
Yeah, well, I was there before that too.
From my point of view, it's ugly. I think it just doesn't fit in with the whole, the old beautiful buildings are still what I like to see. I could see this kind of a stuff modern in our United States of America.
You have to because we've torn down everything that was
I just don't think it belongs here. And the Parisians themselves were not really too much in favor of it when it was built. There was quite a controversy over it.
Well, of course, anytime you have anything new like that, I think you're going to find that.
Look at that elevator. Isn't that a kick?
That's wild.
I'm at Disneyland, I'm waiting now for it to whirl around. Yeah.
Well, I had read about this. I had, again, the first time I was there when when it wasn't there, I should say. But then I had read about it, and I saw it in National Geographic and a few other things, and I thought, that is going to be an ugly deal. But I'll tell you what, I had a different feeling about it, Betty. I was really kind of impressed with it, as I was with the Mona Lisa, of course, and that they let us take pictures here. This really amazed me. I didn't think so. I did get up kind of close to it and got some pictures of the Mona Lisa. So, really
she's just beautiful.
Good look at it.
And Marv, modern times sort of eulogized her too with the song Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
For people that didn't know it was a painting and until they heard the words to the song, so it was a great boost to the popularity, I think, rather than just artisans or artists themselves admiring it. Everybody got an idea of Mona Lisa.
I think so. Well, it is wonderful. And of course, that's just one of Da Vinci's paintings that are here in the Louvre. And of course, the Louvre, in my estimation, this is probably the greatest museum in the world. The second one that I would say would probably be in Spain would be the Prado. Right? Yeah. It's amazing.
Now, why you picked this? I mean,
now look. I've seen this, of course, in books. Look very closely. The first painting that we saw was made of flowers and made of face. This one is made of vegetables.
Look at it's like a cucumber nose.
Right.
Huh?
Yeah, and these are absolutely magnificent. Of all of the paintings that we saw, the Mona Lisa,
Oh
and
my
of course
gosh,
these
look at
paintings
that one, huh?
Yeah, I just had to get a picture to bring home to share with everybody. These, of course, you've seen them in picture books. You can get a book of the Louvre, and you can see so many wonderful things there in the galleries. I'll tell you, and I have to admit, I was so tired. I was sitting down here in one of the galleries, and I looked up at the ceiling, and I thought, oh my golly, look at that. That is just
Everywhere.
amazing. So I said, I want to take some pictures of that. And in the next program, we're going to visit Versailles. And if you think that these are great, you ought to wait till you get to Versailles. The ceilings of the palaces, and of course we have to remember that this originally was a palace before it did become a museum, and there was also government offices in here too, and they had to move out. And this, of course, is what we know as the Wing Victory. The first time that I was there, the entrance was at a different place, and we walked in, and right at the end of the hall, up these stairs, that's what you would see would be the Wing Victory. But again, the ceilings, as we can see here, are painted. They're beautiful.
I think you're at the Vatican.
Yeah, well, it does. It does. And you have to realize that, during the time that these palaces were built all over Europe, this was it. I mean, this is what you did. You decorated the ceilings. You decorated the walls. And
they used all of the money from the poor people.
Well, you can see why they had a revolution.
Yeah, right.
Why they had a French Revolution.
Absolutely true. Now, this show that we're doing today is more of a like a history kind of, like, this is not one of our usual. We're not on a bus today.
No, we're not on a bus
We've
today.
actually arrived at our destination, and we have planted our feet. We
And
have
we have a
our
little more time.
hotel, and so now we're making use of the time that we have to show you some of the things that we're not able to show in depth on our regular trips.
Right. In fact, we want you to give Betty a call at the end of the show, because we have Paris scheduled on one of our trips coming up. But Betty, I had to show you this. This was a warm day
Isn't that
in
wonderful?
Paris. And look, everybody is out there. I mean, you can't blame people. I mean, want to get in the fountains. It's just absolutely incredible. Well, as I was saying, we do have trips coming up, and if you're interested, give Betty a call at
488-7443.
We're glad that you were with us today on the Adventure Travel Club television show, and we hope to see you next time. So until then, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.